Joining me from New York is Séverine Autesserre. She is a professor of political science at Barnard College at Columbia University and is the author of Peaceland and The Trouble with the Congo. Séverine, thanks so much for joining us. On top of this 2-year delay, we've seen delays on Election Day because of problems with those electronic voting machines being used for the first time in some areas that are also opposition strongholds. Do you think that could call the credibility of these elections into question?
Yes, certainly. The credibility of the elections has been put in question because of everything that has happened today, all of the problems that we heard about, but also everything that happened prior to today. During the lead up to the elections, during the 2 years of political campaigns, there were a lot of irregularities, a lot of violence against the opposition, and all of that has combined to put the results of the elections already in question.
And another issue is the delay in the vote in Ebola-affected districts. So have 1 million voters been disenfranchised, as some contend?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. 1.2 million voters won't be able to vote until March. But as we heard, the results of the presidential elections are going to be announced in January, and the president is going to be sworn in January. So 1.2 million voters out of 40 million voters, meaning 3% of the electorate, are not going to be able to choose their president.
That's a big number. Well, let's talk about the differences among the main candidates. President Kabila's favorite, of course, Emmanuel Ramazani Shadary, and the other opposition candidates, Felix Tshisekedi and Martin Fayulu. Let's talk about the differences in those candidates as well as their platforms.
Right. So in terms of platform, it's very simple. They're all talking about security, about fighting poverty, fighting corruption, and blah, blah, blah. But what really matters is what they represent. So Shadary represents continuity. He represents the ruling party. He's the hand-picked candidate, hand-picked by President Kabila, who's been ruling Congo for 18 years. And then on the other hand, you have the two opposition candidates. So Tshisekedi and Fayulu. And Fayulu and Tshisekedi, both of them represent change. Change from what happened during the past 20 years with Kabila. And Fayulu is really the leading candidate in these elections. According to all of the opinion polls, he's the one most likely to win the elections, or he would be the one most likely to win the elections if they were free and fair, which they're not.
And so what are the main issues that voters are concerned about that are driving this election? I'm sure corruption is one of those issues.
Yes, corruption is an issue, but I think the main issue that people have in mind is peace and security. There is enormous insecurity in Congo. There has been enormous insecurity in Congo. The war started, the civil war and the international war started in the mid-1990s, and still today in the eastern part of the country, we still have hundreds of armed groups that are active. So people really vote for peace and security because it's at the top of their mind. And then in addition, you have poverty. The Congo is an extremely poor country where people are facing lack of education, lack of access to healthcare, lack of access to land. And then, of course, you have the universal issues like better governance, wishes for better governance, and especially better justice and fight against corruption.
Séverine Autesserre of Barnard College at Columbia University, thank you so much for your perspective.
Thank you.